Good morning from our garden. I'm Cami, creator of the blog Tidbits, and I hope you appreciate progress over perfection because I really want to share with you our garden progress and the beginnings of our lavender farm. It is not perfect or even close to finished yet, but I'm really excited about it, so I thought I would share with you the progress we've made. Okay, I first want to show you this cute little garden. So my husband, Kevin, has made this beautiful arched entryway and put fencing all around. We really wanted fencing that was affordable, so we knew we couldn't do all wood privacy fencing. We have a lot of things that would like to eat our garden, so we had to build a fence before we could even think about planting anything in the ground. We are dealing with deer, skunks, raccoons, our own chickens would eat our garden, our little bunnies that hop around would eat our garden. Definitely deer, so it definitely needed to be high enough for deer. And actually, I think I'll switch places with the cameraman in a bit and let him kind of explain a little bit the construction that he did. But we also added these little solar light caps on here. We heard that light will actually keep some predators and things away from your garden, so hopefully those will light up at night and also be a deterrent for anything that would want to eat our garden. So we just love this little area. We are on a hillside, so it's sloped, and we had to build kind of a rock wall to separate the tiers that we've built. So this year we've just kind of focused on the upper section, because on the lower section the ground is really hard and we want to eventually put some garden beds in here. I don't think that will happen this year, so we have focused mainly on the upper section. And I think, again, I'll let Kevin explain what he's done as far as laying down some plastic and stuff like that. But it's middle of June and it's still pretty chilly. I didn't even actually get all the way dressed because it's cold out here. So not a lot has grown and taken off, but hopefully that will happen soon. We really have a late frost date, so we can't plant too early around the Rocky Mountains. Oh, we do have the garden beds that we built last year, and we have a tutorial for that as well. I will link to that in the description. But these raised garden beds that are waist high are so amazing. And since we have this vegetable garden, I'm kind of using those raised beds as more of an herb garden. We might do some spinach and lettuces in these as well, but we can't plant till fall because we were a little late on that. So anyway, I'm gonna actually let Kevin explain the fencing and a little bit of what he's done here, and then I think I'll take you down to the lavender farm that we've started to kind of test some varieties. Really excited about that. If you have been with me for a while or you want to catch up, Kevin and I did a video when we first bought the property. Nothing was on here, kind of sharing our dreams and hopes for this land. Of course, we're just going as fast as we can. It was time and money will allow, but we're starting to do some things that are just a big part of our dream, and lavender farming is one of them. So I'll take you down there soon and show you what's begun there.
Okay, so first off, yeah, we decided to go with cedar posts because they don't have any chemicals on them to leach into the ground. Then I used pine cross sections to make the cross with some horse, I believe they call it horse paneling, the fencing in the back. It's a little stiffer than regular, and basically I went 6 foot tall to the fence here, and then an additional foot on the back side. I'm going to put in some standoff electric fence insulators to kind of lift the electric fence kind of out at an angle, and that should get to the 7 feet required to keep deer out of the fence. Yeah, then we put these awesome little lights up on top that are solar powered. I came in last night and they lit up pretty good. They're not as bright as I'd like them to be, but they just need to be a little bit of illumination just for looks, also to try and keep predators out. Okay, so I ended up with a bunch of this landscape fabric from a job we did. I think it's 14 feet wide. But I could roll the whole thing out over the whole bed in one continuous strip, basically to keep out the weeds. I don't know, I've done a lot of research on using landscape fabric in gardens. There's a lot of yes and no's, good and bads about it. I'm just trying to see if it works, because I don't have the time to weed properly to do it right. So I'm going to try this. If it doesn't work, we can easily just pull them off. But it's underneath the walkways too, so that you won't have weeds growing up in our walkways. And I want it to look good, aesthetically pleasing, but at the same time reduce my amount of work. It doesn't seem to heat up the ground like I thought it would. The ground underneath stays fairly moist, but I am worried about not getting airflow and oxygen to the microorganisms in the ground, but we'll see how it goes. We used a wash sand. This is a Mason wash sand. We get it for free due to the fact that our family owns a gravel pit that was shut down a long time ago and still has a bunch of this sand left in it. It packs down really nice and tight, but yet the bigger rocks will float to the top, and it just gives it a good look. Weeds really can't grow in it. It doesn't have enough soil to really be a something that weeds are going to grow into. We'll see over time how it goes. But yeah, this is my rock wall. All these rocks you see here came from this garden. So you can see we live in the Rocky Mountains for sure. We have to terrace everything around here because of the hillside we live on. But I was able to dig all the ground out. I've got a little miniature dozer that I can push dirt around with, and then I brought in a whole bunch of compost, put it on top, tilled it all into the dirt that was left after the rocks were removed, and this is what we have left. Yes, so Cammy wanted me to talk a little bit about the shapes of my beds. Instead of doing long rows like you typically see in a garden, mathematically it actually works out. You can get a ton more, up to three to four times more plants in an area when you do a rectangle instead of rows. In the square footage, you can really pack them in across from each other. You don't have to worry about all these walking areas. You lose too much walking space when you have rows going through your garden. If you're able to put everything together, they're closer together, which they like, and they can be easily tended and taken care of. So we have rectangular beds. You can see I have tomatoes and peppers in here, all my potatoes, and then corn. It's all lined up in blocks. And same thing with all my, I got zucchini, spaghetti squash, butternut squash, pumpkins, all in these rectangular beds. Plus I can go in and I can fit other plants in those things as they grow. If I want to do some winter stuff, cabbages, lettuce and whatnot, I can find spots to put those in the beds and just nestle them all in with all the other plants. It's just a better utilization of your space rather than long rows. Plus I don't till. We're doing a no-till garden. Kind of a newer research for me at least coming out that no-till is a lot better for the soil because you're not tearing up the ground and killing that environment where all these microorganisms have been growing. Because when you do that, it has to all start over again. So I'm trying a no-till situation where I would just basically work the top 3 or 4 inches and that is it. And that's just when I put more compost on next year. And so basically I don't really need a tiller after the initial tilling. And so they're expensive, waste of time in my opinion. So I'm not going to go and rototill my walkways either, which is what you do in a row situation. You till up all the areas you're going to walk anyways. So anyways, that's the style of the garden this year. We're going to try it out and see how it goes. In the corner I have plans of building a compost setup with 3 bins to build my own compost next year. I kind of started a pile down there. I've never done it before, so I'm excited to try it. We got plenty of chicken manure and greens around the property that we're going to be mixing in there. It's starting to work pretty good. I've been turning it lately and it's getting a pretty high temperature. Our long-term plans, hopefully this summer, is to build a greenhouse. A greenhouse that's actually embedded in the ground about 8 feet to the base of it, 4 foot to the walking section, but that will allow us to keep vegetables year-round. That's my main focus, is trying to find a way to have vegetables any time of the year, including through the winter. You know, I've done research on that and it is quite possible, especially in our cold climate here. So this is my first attempt at an archway. I've never done one before. It's all right, but anyways, these same cedar posts. I've got a cedar door 6 foot high, then an archway. I'm gonna keep with these little boards all the way down the sides and put planter boxes on each side that are open to the bottom. Then I want to put in 2 of the climbing roses. When I find the variety and color that I like, we'll put them in. But they're gonna, hopefully they'll climb clear over the top and it'll just fill this whole thing in with just a beautiful rose look. This is a temporary wire I have up just to keep animals out. I'll finish all that in with lattice and what I need for the roses to hold on to and climb. But yeah, then the latching gate that opens up, and there we go. Then my chicken house, where I get all my manure for the compost. Don't judge me for that. It took me about 2 hours to build it. I was in a huge hurry to get it done. We had very limited time at the time, and one day I'll make it look prettier. But the chickens are right nice and close to us, so we can just haul the manure in for the compost. And we even have a couple turkeys this year.
All right, so here we are down at the beginnings of our lavender farm. We have a massive field out front that we would love to cover in lavender someday, but we don't want to bite off more than we can chew as we get started. We've planted a lot of varieties. I'll actually let Kevin tell you about all those varieties and the space that we have, but lavender farming has just lit a fire in us for some reason, and we're actually in a really good climate for lavender. A little bit dry, and well, we will have to kind of baby them over the winters, but the Rocky Mountains is actually a great place to grow lavender. And it was, oh, I want to say 4 years ago, Kevin, or 5? Something like that. We went to this multiple day kind of lavender conference over in Colorado. It's a farm called Sage Creations. And we got to spend a few days there and learn about their lavender farming, and we have just wanted to do it ever since. But finally felt we were in a position this year to just start out a little small. We hope that we can like fence this little area in someday and make it a cute, maybe U-pick area, or just a place where you can learn about all the different varieties of lavender. There are a ton, by the way. There are pinks and whites and dark purples, some great for culinary, some great for buds, some great for stems. Some great for oils. There's just a ton more than you would think. So we're excited to finally be able to start doing this. So I will switch places with the cameraman here and let him kind of explain his process.
Okay, so yeah, first things first, once we decided where we wanted to put the U-pick, it's kind of hard seeing the future, knowing what developments we're going to do on the property, but we decided this is the best spot. With a friend of mine, we built a bed former, which basically just is an apparatus that goes on the back of a tiller on this tractor, and it mounds it up, and so you can see the big mounds in here. We tried to get, you know, around a foot to 18 inches deep on the mounds. Lavender likes well-draining soil. It likes to be up out of the ground. It does not like to be wet. In fact, when it's fully grown, you only have to water 4 or 5 times a year, which is beneficial to us, especially where we're at, where water is a definite concern, a little bit of a scarcity. So I went and we formed all the beds, tried to make it as straight as we could, and then I took some more of this fabric, which I still have lots of, rolled it out, and then I would go along and cut holes where we wanted to plant the lavender, and the lavender gets planted right in those little holes. That way, because lavender farmers will tell you the biggest expense they have is getting rid of weeds. So if you can control it with landscape fabric, that's by far the best way to go. Especially when you're looking at 3 or 4 acres of lavender. To weed that would be an absolute nightmare, and we do not want to use chemicals. We would prefer this came from an organic farm. This lavender did, and so we want to keep it that way. I don't know if we'll ever be actually registered lavender, but we want to be organic at all costs. Anyways, so planted them. I also have inside, underneath the thing, there's lines running along there for irrigation. So each plant has its own little drip system, where I just go and I turn on the water and it drips. The ones I used are 1 gallon per hour. So in reality, hour or two, we should have all the water we need on the lavender. I did put in moisture sensors that tell me how much water is in the moisture, or sorry, how much moisture is in the ground, so I can track that. It's not that most accurate way, but at least it's a good idea of knowing where things are at in the field. I have mobile ones I can put in the ground and sense how much moisture is in the ground to keep the ground to the right moisture. So as Cammie mentioned, we did plant a lot of varieties. There are actually 14 varieties, 1 per row. And then down the middle, I used more of the wash sand that we had in our garden, mostly to keep the moisture there, because this landscape fabric, water will just run right off of it. It's like a slip and slide. So the sand is there to kind of keep the moisture in the ground and in this spot when it rains or snows. Also for make it look a little better and nicer to walk on than landscape fabric. But we can't really harvest for another 2 years. We'll start seeing a serious harvest. 3 years until it's full production. These plants are just, we're just planted, started last November, October time, and so they're just not even a year old yet. So they have to be 3 years before we can start harvesting in full production. So yeah, as you can see, I still have a few piles of sand I need to get spread out. But then that's the rest of the field. We've got another 3 acres here that we're gonna be putting into lavender. I just got cut yesterday for alfalfa to feed my cows for the winter. But really excited to get this started. This is just a small stepping stone, and then that field is, I've really found out how much work it's gonna take to put it in. But we're really looking forward to it and what this is gonna bring to the area aesthetically, but also financially for us.
Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed seeing the progress of our garden and our lavender and the beginnings of our homestead. I feel a bit of a fake calling this a homestead because, I guess besides chicken, eggs, and beef cattle, we haven't yet been able to provide for ourselves very much, but hopefully this garden changes that and we become more self-sufficient. I really hope this just inspires you. If you also want to if you're interested in homesteading or just being a little more self-sufficient or creating a beautiful yard, I just hope this inspires you just to follow us along on the journey, and then hopefully someday I will get to do a beautiful reveal. I love finished reveals as well, but right now I just really wanted to show you the progress and take you along with us. So I hope you enjoyed that. Pardon the rooster, but come on back for more inspiration for the keeper of the home.